So this is a Suunto Run, and I'm sorry to say it's not looking great. This is a new Suunto Run, which is essentially Suunto's more affordable running-focused watch that is sort of their predecessor to the Suunto Race S. And what Suunto has sort of done with this watch is they've brought down a lot of the advanced features of the Race S into this more affordable running packaged watch called the Suunto Run. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing everything you need to know in my initial impressions of this watch. And to sort of spoil this review, Suunto has sort of taken one step forward and 3 steps back with this watch.
One step forward and 3 steps back.
So I'm going to be starting this video a little more positively with the specifications of this watch, where this watch absolutely excels. And after that, I'm going to share the goods of this watch, or things that Suunto has really improved over the last 6 months. And then after that, we're going to move into where this watch really falls short. And to sort of spoil it, there's a lot of places where this watch can be improved. It's sort of like a half-baked watch that Suunto has rushed to release, which is really disappointing to me. Alright, so starting right off with the specifications of this watch, the watch comes in at a price point of $249, which is relatively budget friendly in the realm of sports tech. Next thing with this watch, it comes in with a case size of 46 millimeters, or actually 45.6 millimeters, so slightly bigger than the Suunto Race S. Next up, this watch has quite a few features, including a really beautiful AMOLED display, and that's sort of where Suunto seems to shine, is with their beautiful displays. Now, since this is a running focused watch, Suunto has really brought the weight down of this watch to 35 grams, which is very, very comparable to something like the COROS Pace 3. The watch is going to maintain this same dial and 2-button area, which is very similar to Suunto's other watches. Since this is an AMOLED display, it will have the option of like a raise to wake, always on display, or something where you have to click one of the buttons to turn on the display. All of those are working a lot better than something like the Suunto Race S, where it was a little finicky. Now, moving on to some of the features of this watch. First off, this watch has quite a few activity profiles, which means it's going to have like around 30 to 40 different activities that you can choose from on this watch. And it's going to cover things from like swimming to triathlon to cycling to running, and all sorts of different running related profiles like trail running, marathon running, track running. It's going to have pretty much everything you need, including triathlon mode. The next thing is that this watch has pretty incredible battery life, or at least pretty incredible claimed battery life. Now, I haven't had this watch long enough to really speak to the battery life, but Suunto claims that it has around 12 days of regular use, just with the regular heart rate monitoring without any activities. So that's pretty great, and it's a little bump from the Suunto Race S. Now, a few things you'll notice with this watch is that it comes with this nice nylon band. It will include 2 different nylon bands, one small or slash medium and one medium slash large. So it'll fit all different wrist sizes. I have a very small wrist, and it fit my wrist just fine with this small band. Similar to the Race S, you'll be able to measure HRV and blood oxygen as you are sleeping with this watch. So those are 2 nice health features that will really be beneficial to those of you who like tracking those health stats. And the next thing you're going to notice with this watch is that it does not come with the Suunto Plus app suite. So sort of similar to Garmin Connect. It's like this where you can add external apps to your watch that are all developed by Suunto. So the Suunto Run will be missing out on that. Now, the next big thing is that this watch does not have offline mapping. So you won't have a base map and be able to see each individual street. Instead, you'll just get a breadcrumb map that will sort of be able to direct you in the general direction of things. But it's not going to give you those precise directions that something like the Suunto Race S or the Suunto Race will give you. Now, one more major thing that I want to highlight is that the Suunto Run does not allow you to connect to cycling equipment, so you can't pair it to something like a power meter to get power data when you are riding on the road. Alright, now just a brief section on music on this watch. That's sort of a feature that Suunto tried to highlight, but honestly, it's sort of a miss because nobody uses MP3 files nowadays. To be dragging and dropping MP3 files onto your watch in 2025 is just not realistic. It's not something that people would use. Alright, now as I mentioned at the start of this video, Suunto made a lot of good changes to this watch, and they've listened to a lot of the feedback, and many of them were things that I mentioned in my full in-depth review of the Suunto Race S, and were things that I really struggled with the Race S. But Suunto has made some really great changes, and I'm going to cover some of those changes and really highlight the things that Suunto has updated with the release of this new watch. And the first thing is really big, and that is the ability to customize your data pages. But first of all, you can now customize data pages on this watch. You can go do that through the Suunto app, and you could just go ahead and change the data pages around. Now another thing a little bit smaller is that this scroll dial is very, very nice compared to the Suunto Race S. One of the complaints that I had was that it's very hard to move the Suunto Race S's dial, but the Suunto Run is a lot easier and it's going to feel a lot smoother, more closer to something like a COROS dial or an Apple Watch dial where it actually works how you expect it to work. You don't have to shove it in order to get it to move. And it also has very, very nice haptics built into it. I think those have also been improved from the Race S, which is great to see, and it overall just enhances the experience of the user interacting with this watch. Next thing to note is that the navigation on this watch is even silkier and even smoother than it used to be with the Race S. Suunto has been innovating with this ever since they launched their Suunto Run, or ever since they launched their Suunto Race. It's just been getting better and better to the point where it's super, super smooth. It's comparable to something like you would have on your iPhone. Another complaint that I had on the Suunto Race S was that the band was a little finicky and it wasn't great overall, but Suunto has transitioned to this nylon band, which is something very similar to what I have on my COROS Pace 2, and I really love this material, and this one might even be more comfortable than the COROS band, and it just feels so smooth on my skin, and I don't get any irritation or anything like that, and I can get a nice snug fit without feeling like I'm being strangled, so that's great to see. Now another thing is that we've got quite a few new cool recovery features on this watch that are going to help you have a lot more insight into your post-run stats, and it's going to help you just recover from your runs and have more advanced insights into how you should be training and how you can optimize your training based on the stats you're getting from these really cool health metrics. And one of those is post-activity heart rate readings. So it's going to measure your heart rate after your activity to see how well you're recovering after that hard workout, and it's going to give you insights based on that in the Suunto app. The next thing that's really changed is the new charger. Now the charger is a lot better and it's a lot stronger than the last one. The last one, it was kind of easy to disconnect the watch from the charger, and it could lead to like you not actually charging the watch when you thought you were charging it the whole time. Now the magnets are a bit stronger, so it's going to stick to that a lot better, and great to see that changing, and I really enjoy that. It's also switched to USB-C, so it's no longer just a regular USB-A port. It's going to be USB-C, which is a lot better and a lot more up to today's standards. All right, so now sort of the bad part of this watch. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Suunto, and I really wanted to see them succeed with this watch. I really want to see them succeed as a company, and I think this watch would have been a really, really important stepping stone to getting them back up to the forefront of sports tech. But I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on this watch, and everything's sort of just not really ready. Now, the first thing was really, really astonishing when I started my run was that it was measuring my distance in feet. Now, I changed it to imperial as I was setting up this watch, so I sort of expected it to be in feet or sort of miles, as most watches measure things in 0.01 miles. That's just a standard thing. However, when I started my activity, I started getting readings in feet, and I thought, okay, maybe it's just the start of the activity. It's just going to do that for the first couple hundred feet until I hit maybe 0.1 miles. Then it would transition over to that. But eventually it hit 3,000 feet, and it automatically lapped me to 0.62 miles, which is 1 kilometer, and it was measuring the whole thing in feet. And my problems didn't really stop there. As soon as I lapped my watch, or as soon as it hit that 1 mile lap, which I had to change manually in the settings, even though I switched from imperial to metric, it still didn't change my auto laps to 1 mile. It was still in 1 kilometer, which was really, really off in my opinion. It should automatically transition to the standard conventions of measurement, which should be a mile, should lap every mile, as all the other Suunto watches do. But instead, it lapped me at 5,279 feet. Now, the interesting thing to me was that that's not even a mile. Now, there's probably some kind of rounding issue that's going on in the back end of this watch, but 5,279 feet. Not even a mile. Now, after the run, I continued to face issues with this watch, and starting with the heart rate sensor. Now, this was during the run and after the run, but during the run, I was noticing heart rates of over 200 beats per minute on a regular run at around 730 mile pace, which is very, very sustainable for me. Normally around 170, 180 beats per minute. This is a super similar thing that I was seeing on the Suunto Race S, which was one of my big pain points of this watch. Not an issue if you're using an external heart rate sensor, but for those of you who were hoping that you would see a better accuracy reading on the Suunto Run than their older watches, I'm afraid you're not really gonna see that. Now, the next thing is, once I finished my activity, I thought it would continue just measuring my heart rate as a normal watch would because I had 24/7 heart rate sensing on. However, it just stopped. The sensor just literally would not light up. No matter what I did, I tried turning it off and on again, I tried restarting it, just nothing was getting me that regular reading of heart rate. Hoping that like this isn't a widespread issue. I'm hoping not everyone is going to publish their review on May 13th and all have the same exact issue. Hoping it's just me and maybe I have a user error, but I have the feeling this is going to be a pretty widespread issue. Now that's sort of the end of my little spiel about the Suunto Run, and honestly I was super disappointed that I was facing these issues with this watch. I had really high hopes for this watch, and I think that a lot of these things can be fixed with software updates. But I think the most painful thing is that Suunto is still going to release this watch like this in this current state. Until then, I will be continuing to test this watch. I'll be going back and forth with Suunto, and I'll try to figure these things out with you all. And hopefully this isn't too big of an issue, and hopefully Suunto can get this figured out before I have my full review up in around a month or two. Now that sort of brings this video to a close. I'm sorry it had to be like this, and I wish I had more positive things to say about the Suunto Run, but unfortunately, that's the way I'm going to leave things with you all. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and with that, thank you all for watching, and ride on.